Hello, everybody. It is Thursday, the 29th of August. I've just heard we must all become Israel so that there's peace and brotherly love in this world forever. I wonder what they're basing that on. Anyway, I want to talk about a few things here, especially the Apostle Paul. Right, but let's start with Jesus. No, let's start with, I just had an conversation in the comments. It was the video of who was the father of Jesus. And a conversation again that triggered me. And I was given the examples of, that Jesus said those who follow me should hate their mother and father. That the example of the non-Jewish woman that was begging for help for her mother, for her daughter. In one version she was a Canaanite. I've just found another version in which it was said she was Greek. Doesn't really matter. She was not a Jew. That's what matters. And he ignored her and then he called her a dog. Yeah, the fact that when you come running in the end times because you were so filled with compassion and you did as he told you, you drove out demons, and what will he say? I do not know you. You are not on my wavelength. All those things, that should trigger. That should trigger you. You should start thinking, what on earth is going on here? How do I think? What do I think about that? How do I feel about that? But of course, Christians are taught not to dare think for themselves. Because, don't go by your own knowing. Because if you do, the horned-winged goat will come and take you to hell. And this is 2024, and people are still going in fear of that. It's actually incredible. But as I said, there are things there that should make you think. And what was I said in the comments? Oh, the texts that I was reading were too complicated. I should take the versions that are easier to understand. That is to say, the versions where all these difficulties are a bit more airbrushed out of it. Yeah? I mean, honest to God, you're demanding to be deceived. You do not want to look at these things. You do not want to reason about these things. You want to believe in the version of Jesus is coming to save me. And then you're demanding that they're airbrushing the difficulties out of it. So it's easier for the sheep to swallow. I mean, it's... Anyway. So, I have been for the last few days thinking about the Apostle Paul and about what was happening there. So first of all, before Paul came, this was a completely internal Jewish thing. And Israel, we should all be Israel, because then it would be so peaceful. They have been at war with each other and with everything else around them for as long as they existed. So where are you getting this peaceful thing from? I don't know. Yeah, they were at war with each other, kingdom against kingdom, nation against nation. They've done that forever. Within Israel and then with those outside of Israel. And the other thing is that they had high knowledge of spiritual things. Yeah? And that is, honestly, what we are getting to now. That is the fact that this world is not solid. Yeah? Ye are gods. You can affect reality through thoughts and emotions. But first of all, the kingdom within. You must become that which you want to have reflected outside of yourself. To them, that was an absolute reality. We're only coming back to the place where we're thinking that might be a reality. They lived that. And then as we do now, as the mighty do now in the material way, yeah, they're getting knowledge of technology and stuff like that, and they're building bombs. Yeah, and they're building ways by which to rule over the plebs. That is what they're using their knowledge for. And back then, they used their knowledge in exactly the same way. It was spiritual warfare. Yeah, they had a different kind of knowledge, but they're using it in exactly the same way as the mighty would use knowledge now. So Jesus brought this teaching, which Paul and the others went up against. And Paul said, we are not dealing with flesh and blood, we are dealing with spiritual wickedness. This is spiritual warfare. And that is real, and they knew it was real. I mean, for Christians now, do you believe or don't you believe? Yeah, I hear, I'm talking about the miracles, or that those are just metaphors. That's not real. So what are we talking about? Either you believe or you don't. I do believe. So Paul, or Saul as he was then, felt a Pharisee, a high-ranking Pharisee, somebody with knowledge, went up against that. Yeah? To the point where he would execute his own people, well, Jews, brutally execute them for even going down that path. Yeah? Until, as I said, he bumped his head off the road of Damascus to Damascus and had an epiphany. And that is that this teaching is a weapon. So what he do? He teaches it to the Gentiles. Yeah? The thing that at one moment he is absolutely opposed against and is condemning as a false, dangerous teaching. He now goes and he teaches it to the Gentiles as the only enlightened truth and what they absolutely must do. He was a high-ranking Pharisee. To him, the Gentile would have been golem, dust, less than an animal, a blight on the perfect earth that should be ruled over by his God. Yeah? That teaching was given to destroy. It was a weapon, a spiritual weapon. And here, I mean, there's so many things. They are serpents. They are subtle. Yeah? Because I wasn't sure about Paul because he said this thing, about we are dealing with spiritual wickedness in high places. And I think, well, if he's doing that, why would he say it? But we know that in this world now, folks, things have not changed. The high and the mighty are still the same. They have not changed. They used a different weapon. But in essence, nothing has changed. So what are they doing now? What do we know they are doing now? What they're doing is, if you are something and you're doing something, accuse somebody else of doing it. That is what they're doing now, because this has two effects. First of all, you're pointing the attention away from yourself by pointing the finger for the sheep in that way, and all the sheep go, what? What? And then you direct the wrath of the sheep toward the enemy, and they will go and destroy. Without thinking, filled with righteous anger. That is what he was doing. That's what they're doing now, folks. Do not detach from the knowledge of this world. Do not detach from the knowledge that you have. Nothing has changed. it is the same in the New Testament. There's so much there that is good. That is good, absolutely. And as I said, the serpent is subtle. There's always just this little add-on that is the seed that is planted in your head that will take you in the wrong direction. You know, one of the most dangerous add-ons to me was when Jesus said, you know, the Father gives to all. He gives to the birds in the air and the lilies in the field. And that we know as truth. We see it in this world. And then he says, how much more would he give to you? That is the seed that will lead to destruction. How much more would he give to you? Because from that point onwards, man will think himself elevated above the rest, entitled to receiving more. Yeah? That coupled with the idea that anything is possible, you know, you just have to ask for it in prayer. Again, which I believe to be true. But, you know, be careful what you ask for, because what you bring into this world will have consequences. Again, there is no talk of consequences. Just do it. Free for all. We are no longer under any law, we are no longer under any restrictions, and that is exactly what Paul went up against. And at the start. Went up against amongst his own people. Because it will create a person that will just do whatever it wants to do. Look at this world now. It has created the mighty, well, in the West, the mighty are out of control. Science is out of control. It's doing whatever it wants to do. The whole thing is becoming totally destructive. And I would say Paul already knew that outcome. So he taught it to the Gentiles as the only enlightened truth. This is warfare, just not using technology, but spirituality. And as I said, let's all go to Israel, so there will be everlasting peace in this world. What are you basing that on? There was never peace in Israel. So we all become that, and then there will be peace? So really, two things we must do here. First of all, as I say, you must believe. You know, as I said, so many, they are proclaiming the Spirit, but they're denying the power thereof. Yeah? Oh, it's just metaphors. It doesn't really work like that. Things like that don't really happen. Now, as far as the healings are concerned, we know about faith healing and about energy healing, whatever you want to call that, and that it does work. There's some other things that are still a bit far out, but you know, a miracle is something that you do not know how it's done. Magic miracles. You don't understand how it's done, that's the only thing. But if it can be done, it can be explained. So do you believe it can be done? And then really do not, all you have to do is use the word God and godly, and Christians and everybody else will switch their brains off. Absolutely. I mean, Christians are told they have to switch their brains off or they go to hell. Or you're saying we're now dealing with stuff that we cannot understand. No, you absolutely can't understand it. And they have not, the world has not changed. The mighty are still the same now than they were then. And they will use knowledge to have dominion. Yeah? And if they had spiritual knowledge, they will use that knowledge in that way. And they did. And when Paul had, I mean, you are like children, saying, oh, he bumped his head and all of a sudden he was filled with love. Yeah, he had a complete personality change because he cracked his head open. Or had he no personality change at all? Yeah, that he realized that this teaching was a weapon. A weapon of mass destruction. That teaching is a weapon of mass destruction. Did he realize that it could actually be used against that, in that way, against the Gentiles? Because as I said, he was a Jew. He hated them. Jesus thought the Gentiles were dogs. Nothing has changed, folks. Yeah? And you go on your knees and ask for versions of the Bible where all these inconvenient truths are airbrushed out of it so you feel a little bit better about the whole thing. Yeah? You love your darkness. You love your ignorance. You're holding on to it. Really, like a drowning person is hanging on to a life ring. You're holding on to the ignorance. And it will not save you. You need to stare at the truth. There's good in there. There's a lot of good in there that can take us to a really good future. But then we need to not be afraid to see the darkness so that we can separate the two. We can separate the wheat from the tares. These are the end times, and that is what we're supposed to do. Anyway, folks, here I leave it at that for today, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.